Welcome to Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce Let's Talk Business podcast. Today we'll be talking to Anthony Brogdon, the author of the Black Business Book. Awesome. So, how you doing, Anthony?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. I'm very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay.
Yes.
In between the raindrops, I will be fine. Before we get
Yeah.
started, we're going to go ahead
Yeah,
and
doing
thank our
great.
sponsors. Southwest Airlines is a proud air travel sponsor of Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce and Permacore Business Solutions. So those are two of our sponsors, so we wanted to make sure we thank them. So I'm excited about talking to you because I've been using this book for a while. So before we get started, tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about yourself. Uh-oh.
Hello?
Okay, there you go. I can hear you now.
Yes.
So tell the viewers
All
a
right.
little bit about yourself.
Well, Anthony Brogdon, as she said, that's my name. And I'm a filmmaker and an author. I have two movies out, two documentaries. One is about my hometown, Detroit, called The Great Detroit. But the other one that I have actually been to about 40 cities showing. I toured it from 2017 and still doing it up until the virus, titled Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. And then 19, I wrote and released self-published Black Business Book. And to put out good, positive, motivating information for us to learn something from that I feel is important and to inspire and educate and maybe make my mark on the world.
I agree. I love the book, by the way. There's a lot of information that I got from the book that
Thank you.
I would not have normally looked
Yeah.
for or knew what I was looking at. And so there was a lot of good points about that. So I
Yes.
know today a little bit of our conversation is about the history and realization of Black entrepreneurs in building and growing successful businesses. So we'll be touching a little bit on that. But first, what made you decide to write the book?
Well, as I mentioned, I did the documentary Business in the Black, and so that came first. And after going to cities, and the response was just so overwhelming, a lot of people said, let's keep the conversation where I can put it in book form. And so that was a part of the motivation. And then as I began to do the research, there were just so many facts that I just was never taught in grade school that amazed me. And I thought that these are what I would highlight in the book. And then also, I wanted to make it so easy to read. So I don't give you a lot of commentary, if any. I just give you these facts. And it's over 200. The first fact started in 1619 when the first slaves got here. And the last fact is about Motown Records because the book ends 60. And so it took me about 4 months to do all the research, put it together, decide on what it would be, and there we are.
I think it's really good. Good. Well, what made you do those between that time period? Because that's important too. Because it's 1800s and
As
1950s.
in the documentary stops in the 1960s. Correct. Yeah. I mean, you could go on forever. I mean, how big would that be if I began to start that hard happened in the 70s and the 80s and 90s and the 2000s and so on and so
Okay. Well,
forth.
one of the other
And I
things
did want it to have historical element. And that's one of the comments that I make at the beginning of the book. I couldn't get everything. So I did all I could to cover that over those 400 years.
right. I think that's important. That's good. I'm glad. I was like again. I was happy with all of that. But what did you expect to accomplish by building this book or by writing the book?
I expected to teach you something. Not you. I just didn't know. I mean, I didn't know slaves had money, that there were slaves who were business owners, that there were slaves who were able to buy their freedom, that there were slaves who were so successful that they could be millionaires. Blew me away. And so what I expect to accomplish is that it will blow other people away. And what I have come to realize in some of the comments that I've gotten is that it encouraged people to become business owners, because if they could do it back in those days, despite those odds, surely we can do it in today's times.
And that is one of the things I actually lean on in all of the history that I actually go ahead and release or have a conversation about. I do make it a point to say if they can overcome what they had to overcome in like 1837 or in 1902, then we can by far do that, because we have a little bit more, with maybe not a whole lot of wiggle room, but we do have a little bit more wiggle room as far as our focus and what we're attempting to accomplish. So I really like that about the book. So so when we talk about the pandemic,
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's for sure.
when we talk about the pandemic, how has the pandemic impacted what you're doing and your projects?
Enough, I haven't been anywhere. My last trip was in January to Salt Lake, Utah. I was out there for the Sundance Film Festival, but I also had a showing of my film, The Business in the Black, and a book signing. And I was going to do some trips in February, but didn't make it. And since March, I've just been kind of local, but I haven't been without effort to keep my mission going. So I've been promoting the books online. The book is now available in London and throughout the UK.
So throughout London and the UK, so your book is actually being picked up and purchased in other countries. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's available in London and throughout England and throughout Canada. Correct, through Amazon. It's available on Amazon.
So what
And so I had to do go through some other criteria to make that available.
So what is your other than trying to make sure that we understand
I'm sorry.
how Black people were able to support, how Black people were able to be inside of the fabric of the America, building of America, what other items are you looking to make sure that people get or understand out of the book?
Well, again, to understand, a lot of times people talk about how supportive blacks were of themselves during the day, and that is without a doubt that happened. Some of it was because of segregation and Jim Crow laws and the racism that was prevalent of the time, but also maybe they'll be able to connect that to the support that blacks have of themselves today. I don't want to subscribe to we're not helping each other. I don't want to subscribe to we're not doing things because organizations like the Houston Black Chamber of Commerce, understandably, and all that they do to help support and grow other black businesses. I mean, complete strangers,
Okay, so I'm gonna
members, and maybe even non-members say we're not working together. It's just that it's still happening.
right. So remember, so
I'm
this is
sorry.
Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce, because there is a Black Chamber of Commerce
Tri
down
County,
there.
yeah.
We don't want to confuse the two.
I got you. I see.
So we want to make
I'm
sure that we
sorry.
have that.
I'm
But
sorry.
yeah. So and you know what? You bring up a really good point though, because we really don't want to subscribe to the narrative that we are not supporting one another's business. I do believe that there is a lot for us to do inside of supporting another.
I mean, understandably, you can always do more.
Yes, but I
But
think it's more
in all my
intentional.
years being self-employed, and more blacks can support one another. Yeah, and have a conscious attitude. But I know a lot of people who do are excited when it is a African American owned business. They'll tell that story specifically
Okay, can you repeat that because I think you kind of cut out.
Oh yeah. Well, shucks, I forgot where I was saying. I think the short of it is that I just want people to know that we are supporting each other. People support me. As high as 20, 30 people who've actually, been supportive in some capacity, specifically in what I was doing prior to filmmaking, in the merchandising business. And true enough, others have bought my books and my films. But it's the black community that I target, that I want to inspire more so than others. And I know they're receptive.
We are very receptive, especially right now with everything that's going on. There's a lot of information that I have been able to pull from your book, and then go and do more research about it. That has been impactful. And I make it a point to say that we need to be very intentional about where we spend our money, because even though I
Yeah,
think that other people subscribe to the motto that we don't have enough power to make a change, but for me, I don't subscribe to that model because I recognize that power is in the money, right? So as long as we have money and we have a choice where to spend it, the opportunity for us to make a significant change exists in where we spend our money. So for me, I'm extremely
yes,
intentional because I want to make sure that who I'm spending my money with is a small business, and then I look for a black business, to make sure that I'm able to support them. And I know that in your book there were things that I noticed that a lot of black businesses back then had to form different. They had to get loans and funding a different way than the traditional way because there was no
sure,
support, from the other banks. Are you still there?
sure.
So I did.
Yes, yes.
I
I'm
did find
listening.
that very
Yes,
interesting.
you're exactly right. But to relate that to the book, I mean, they didn't get money back in those days, and they still made it.
Yeah. So
So
what do you think one of the common threads for
you
that was?
find a way.
What is the common thread through all
I'm
of this?
sorry.
The common thread. What do you think the
The
common
common
thread
thread
was?
is resilience. Thread is resilience. How resilient you are, how committed, determined you are to make it. You'll find the money. The money will come. Banks will watch you. You find a way to grow steps. They watch you. They hear you. They see you. And if you have some track record, if it take you a few more years longer than someone else, and you still survive, and you keep pushing, have some beliefs, it still happens. And I'm sure many people will cite those examples.
Yeah, I agree. So resilience is really a major part of being a business owner, especially a black
Yeah.
business owner.
Yes.
The never quit attitude actually is something that's extremely important to us because if our ancestors quit when they were under fire, then we wouldn't have the type of progress that we've had up to this point. And then the ones that are taking the torch now will be able to continue
Sure.
forward and continue with that success. But what is one of
Sure.
the stories?
Sure. And I mean, that's just a black thing. That's
Go ahead.
it's not easier for other races to make it in business. just because they are and they just open the doors. You
You
can
don't
say
think
that
so?
even today with so many of the larger corporations going under.
Say that again. The larger corporations went under.
Yeah, I said so many of our larger corporations, like the J.C. Penney's and just filed for bankruptcy after 100 years. I mean, that's amazing.
That's true, but I think a lot of that.
So it happens for everybody. Business is not easy.
No, it's not. But I think when the cards are stacked, so I get that. I don't subscribe to the model that it's harder for us, but I think that the opportunities are less. So when we talk about business in general, when we look at if we look at because the numbers are out there, so women have a higher ROI, but are receive less money for funding to do a business. So the percentage of blacks take they are 13% of the population in the United States, but only hold 7% of the small businesses, right? There are success rates in the pandemic. Um, it was a reset for many. That includes the larger businesses because it was some of them that refused to make a pivot or a change in how they did business, and so the pandemic actually exacerbated what problems were already existing. So I don't say that. I think that the rules are slightly different for us, but business in general is still a challenge. Period. That's just how that. I mean, it's just a challenge. So unless you come with a ton of money already, you're going to have challenges in doing that. But I did
Yeah,
notice
oh yeah,
in the
sure,
book, the
sure. But
banks. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. It is challenges. Life is a challenge. If you had a job, you go to work every day, and you're wondering if you're going to have a job, if the company that you're working for is, going to be solvent. Uh, so it's a challenge everywhere you go around. But if you have and entrepreneurship is the answer. It is for me because I don't want to have a boss. I want to be my own boss, and I'll do whatever it can so that I can remain in that situation, even through the pandemic.
Right.
It's not
So
stopping
history has
me.
taught you
I
what
keep
as
going
far as your
forward.
business is concerned.
I've done some things during this time.
You've done some things during this
History
time.
has taught me that if I make it, because the people who did make it, there was nothing special about them. They just had the resilience.
So what do you think that they use specifically other than just their sheer will? Because there's got to be some other things that they were able to lean on in order to see past what was in front of them.
I don't think there were anything different in front. I think in some instances, many of the instances, they were trailblazers, and so people was hungry for what they were doing. Let me give you an example. Like in the case of Ebony magazine, there had not been a magazine that spoke to Black America in the way that they did, and so when that came out, once they were able to get some distribution, we went, oh man, finally a magazine that speaks to us and shows us in a good light. I want to subscribe. I mean, I know I did for many, many years. I was pictures and articles and read about other Black people. So that was a little unique, and so we don't have those type of trailblazing type opportunities because so much has already been explored. But there are other trailblazers in various capacities. But I think that made it a little easier for them. Motown Records like, oh, a Black company with singers that we know and can appreciate that come up like us, singing the kind of music we like to hear. But he still had to get distribution. He still had to do the efforts and find the talent and cultivate the talent. Those were, unique circumstances. But now we have the unique circumstance of social media, so we can start a business. We don't have to really buy advertising. We don't have to put a lot in the inventory until we sell the product. They don't have to it's owned if that's a concern of the consumer. You don't have to put a face to it. And so there's different opportunities that are available to us today.
That is very
You
true.
can put
That
a
is very
social media blast, yeah, weed out, and if it in 2 days, you could have sold thousands of copies of whatever you've done. Just because it's easy access to the consumer.
Yeah, social media has actually given people a spotlight for their products and how they're able to sell like on a different platform. But there are ways that we can still
Yeah,
trailblaze. There are ways that I think that there are the right people in the right positions actually allow um, lend themselves to be the example as to how to get things through. But as far as what the drive was, when I was going through the book, I noticed that even for me, because my mom says to me sometimes that you just don't know when to give up, and or you don't know when to quit. And I just tell her, I said, I'm going to try harder next time. There's something that's in our DNA for me is that doesn't
that's it.
allow me to just lay down and just be like, okay, I'm just going to die right here. I'm not going to go and push any further. They don't want me here, so I don't
Right,
want to, I'm not going to move.
right.
And I think that the book actually highlighted a lot of those people who were not willing to accept that no, who were not willing to, who were not willing
Sure,
to say, this is your limit and you can't go any further. And I think that that's the one thing that I got through the
sure,
out the horn.
sure. Well, I thank you for that because that was well. Yeah, I thank you for pointing that out because that's part of my reasoning for writing the book. And it's not just about business, but let's just take it from the angle of how slaves got an education. That was incredible. I mean, there was one instance that I cite in the book where a guy had a school on a raft so that he wouldn't get caught teaching slaves. He's a slave himself, and so forbidden for slaves to gather in education. So he built a raft, and they would float down, and they call it the Floating Freedom School. Well, there was a gentleman in 1909, and his school is still operating. Dr. Lawrence C. Jones. It's called the Piney Woods Boarding School. He decided I'm gonna open up a school for slaves in 1909, well, former slaves, a boarding school. Got mad and was going to lynch him. He talked him out of lynching and even asked for donations. We don't quit if you don't want to quit. If you have an attitude of not quitting. So it's not just business, but in the book, just using that as an example, we cite how they, gathered their education, how we overcame housing discrimination and things of that sort.
Right, I agree with that because I looked at the HBCUs, the one section for that for the universities, and the fact is that ultimately education was meant for all, but it was limited for slaves and for Black people, and and learning that they were it. I did something early, I think last week when we were talking about the young lady Ruby. She's the one who was at 6 years old when she was part of the group that went into that helped to desegregate that school in New Orleans, right? And so the fact that Brown versus the Board of
Right.
Education was 6 years prior to her actually entering the school and her being the first one to go into that school, let you know that I don't know for whatever reason that it takes a period of time in order for them to force the needle to go in a direction that's helpful, but at the same time to know that at 6 years old she was a trailblazer. She was willing to do the hard thing, and her parents
Sure.
had to kind of bond together and make the decision as a family, because although this little 6 year old was going to be the one whose name they're going to remember, right? But the family had to be preparing themselves in order to go ahead and make their way to make the point that education should be allotted to all of us and that we needed to stop being closed out when it came to that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I've been to and I've had a showing of my film in Little Rock, Arkansas, where they had the Little Rock Nine. And you might be also talking about that example where they desegregate the there. And change is going to happen if you keep fighting against it. Not lifetime per se. There'll be steps that happen and movements forward. But change does come about if you keep going at it, and you can apply that to business. You keep fighting, you keep learning. Maybe you reinvent what you do. I mean, I wasn't always a filmmaker. This is what I love to do now, and what I'll continue to do for the rest of my life in some capacity. But it took me product in the next 2 weeks that goes back to something that was related to in terms of my business maybe 25 years ago. And so and now I'm ready to do it again, let's say. And so that happens in life.
Right. So because you actually wrote the book and everything, so the history, can you name me the top three things that you found in history as you were building the book that actually helped you to identify your business and how you were going to be able to navigate what business you put together?
What I'm going to do is I'm coming out with wood plaques that I'm putting sayings on.
Oh.
It'll be out in the next 2 weeks. Various sayings that I've written, others that I've heard, not copywritten sayings, let's say. And it'll help me promote my films, my books, things of that sort. But probably about 25 years ago, as a writer, I wrote some poems. And one of the first poems I wrote were for teachers, titled "I'm the Best Teacher in the World." I laminated them, and then I went to schools and I asked principals to buy copies, for their teachers. And many of them said, "Oh yeah, I love it," and they would buy 30 and 40 copies and give to. And so it's just a takeoff of that same concept. Only because I'm working on another film. I just finished the script titled Foot Soldiers, but because of the pandemic things, I can't shoot the film. I can't have any screenings, things of that sort. And so this is another way to, keep my name out there, and keep the bills paid and things of that sort. But it all just kind of comes full circle, and it all came night thinking, oh, what am I going to do next? And I was blessed with this idea.
So you were able to pick up what you kind of wanted to know from the history that you did all the research on?
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be a number of different comments on these plaques from from the book. Some citing some of the facts on that's actually in the book will be on these wooden plaques. They're like a 7 by 9, varnished, real cute. Go right on your wall. Because again, I'm gonna try to do all I can to inspire people and to educate and even entertain. And this is just another form of that. So yes, it does come from the book in many instances. Some won't. I mean, there'll be some that says, no justice, no peace, and some other sayings like that to piggyback on the movement of the Black Lives Matter that's
Okay.
really
Well,
taken over the country so well.
they're just making an imprint. So that's why I say there's examples of being able to
Oh
trail
yeah,
for sure, still present today. It's just a different type.
yes,
It's definitely a different movement.
sure,
So when we come
sure,
to about
yeah. Man.
growing, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
So as far as growing a successful business, do you feel like your business has been successful? And are you
I'm sorry. Say that again. Yeah, I thought you asked me a question.
Yes, I did. So, do you feel as though your business is successful, right? So, what steps or how? Why? So what did you have to do?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So what are some of the steps that you had to take in order to have a successful business?
The first step to do is write out a business plan. Write out what attempting to do, put it as succinctly as possible, as comprehensive as possible, put numbers on the paper, how much your product is going to cost, who you getting it from, how much it costs to ship it, how often can you get it in, how do you store them, and stock them. Uh, that's the best thing to do so that you can see it in writing. And if you then have that, that's something that you could, give to someone that you trust to hear this information. You'll have to have those going for a loan investors. That's the first thing. So I always do that. I always every so often to see how everything fits, so that I got a clear understanding of what I am doing, so that there's no surprises that will cost me money later. I mean, you have to put everything in terms of the tax, the legal ramifications. How do how much if you grow to have employees, how do you pay the employees? How much that's going to cost? Good to figure things out in the front part of the operations, so that you know what you're up against. I do that all the time, and then I've been at it so long, I have a good idea of do that. But then also, and then you got to follow through. That's the catch. You can talk about being in business. People ask me, well, how do you start a business? I say, well, first thing you do is you come up with a name. Then you come up with what you want to do. Then you come up with a business card. Motivate yourself. And then you begin to, put that business plan together. And it doesn't have to happen in that order, but it's as easy as that. But the follow through is so well, because all the ideas that I've come through, unless I thought that they weren't going to work, didn't want to do them, I follow through. Now, making films is hard. My first film took 3 years to do it. My second film took 2 years. So
Is
for
that
2 years,
normal?
I did other things along that time. But for 2 years, I said I got to come out with this movie. Oh yeah, oh no question. Sometimes it takes longer than that if people just keep tweaking it, working it out, never decide that it's good enough, so on and so forth. The next film I shoot, I probably have for the last 15 years in terms of the concept. It took 3 years to write the script because I kept, doing other things and coming back at it. And even still today, I will probably spend most of the time looking it over and saying, "Oh man, is this exactly what I want?" You always have to do that. So yeah, it can take a while, and then you get good, and it doesn't take you but 3 weeks, 4 months, or something like that. And once I'm ready to begin to start shooting, I got the crew in place. I should be so tight with what I'm doing that it should only take 2 weeks to make the film.
To make it.
So it took me 2 weeks to shoot it.
So really, it
Yeah,
only takes 2 weeks to shoot. You paused. Are you still with me?
yeah.
Okay, so literally only takes 2 weeks to shoot a movie.
It can only. I've heard people shoot a movie in a week
Oh
when
my
you
God.
have everything in place, and that depends. That depends on how many sets you use. You're moving the equipment from one set to another, one location to another. That could take a long time. It depends on how big the budget, how many actors, how many people are in place, how many takes you do. You shoot a scene, and you say, well, we're gonna have to get it right in the first 3, 4 takes. Sometimes movies, specifically big budget movies, they take so much longer because it takes them. We're gonna take over and over and over again until we get something that I think is right. How long did it take somebody to really complete that painting? Well, one guy might be sitting there and he's saying the eyes, no, I don't like them brown. I like them black. I like them light brown. I like them dark black. and you keep going over and over again. My first film, again, as I said, took 3 years to do, but part of it is I ran out of money. That's always a concern. I ran out of money, so it sat for a year. Then when I finally got the money in place, it took me probably no more than 4 months to finish it.
4 months.
So it just depends. It just depends on how hard you work at it. Yep.
I understand that. So you feel that
I'm
you
sorry,
are a
what'd you say?
successful business owner. You're a successful business owner, and you talked
One more
about the
time.
fact that it's a business plan is very important and integral in order to grow your business.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that for a while. The chamber actually offers that as a class, a course that they can kind of walk you through. So, what are your thoughts on joining a chamber or being a part of a community similar to Tri-County Regional Black Chamber?
Definitely do it. But my thoughts is don't do it because you want them to help you and help you only. And so you have like that closed fist theory, me, and then after a while, and you don't see the results that you're supposed to get or that you think you're going to get, and then you decide not to do it. Do it long haul. Do it going in there thinking that maybe I can have some resources to help someone else out, and then people will be more apt to help you and be committed to it. And then also, when I mean committed, join, a committee, let people know that, you have various skills in terms of networking, in terms of follow through, in terms of execution. Also, then figure out maybe there's some way I can help lead in some initiative. All that pays off. All that makes someone want to work with you, and then take advantage of the resources that the chamber offers, the Tri County offers, relative to the seminar classes, specific. Attend those functions. Let people get to know you. I highly suggest being a part of it.
I'm glad you say that. That's why I asked the question. Not, I didn't know what your answer was going to be, but I have to say, a lot of people, they don't realize that they don't have to go it alone, and that if you join the right chamber, it actually makes you, it
Oh
motivates you,
no,
encourages you.
yeah, oh for sure. Then you're around like-minded people who also have been and are going through some of the same circumstances that you're going through. Instead of those who aren't, who a lot of times others who are not entrepreneurs don't understand the struggle and the fight, and their only resolve is, okay, it's not working, crying, get a job, instead of saying, okay, well, hold on, I've been through that fight, and I see how it works. I know the history of it, and so I mean, that's one of the best parts of being a part of the chamber, is somebody that you can find who think like you think.
Yeah, I actually like that too, because what happens is that during some of the events, you start to pair off, or you start to find groups that are complementary to what you're doing, and that you can work. You can see yourself working
Exactly.
and building a relationship that is a powerful one to move you forward. So I think that those are
Yes.
always good ideas.
Sure.
Have you been able to
Sure. Sure.
find that
You'll find.
say that
Yeah,
again?
yeah, oh, very much so. And you'll find somebody that have similar interests, that in business maybe you can partner with. They're part of the chamber.
Yes, for sure. Because I've already met a couple of people, and I'm like, and so every once in a while, I'll give them a call, let them know, hey, I seen this, and I think this will be important for you. And I'm just trying to build the relationships inside the chamber with different people, because I just feel like we're all going through the struggle, and it just depends on where we are in the spectrum of things, is who we can reach out to for a question,
Yes.
to answer a question for you, because you never know how they were able. So
Yeah.
one person's experience can help you overcome your current experience and get you to the next milestone a lot sooner, as long as we look at the experience as a lesson
Yeah.
that can be applied to our
Yeah.
own personal journey. So I think that that's really awesome.
And I've looked at the website and some of the past events that the Tri County Chamber has had, and I mean they're phenomenal, phenomenal events that people need to attend. And I mean, there's an admission fee, but it's well worth it. It comes back to you. You can't make it without spending some money. You got to find the money, spend some money, and there's a whole bunch of pluses that come because then those same people will in most all instances come back and support your business when you're up and running. You want allies.
That is true. Very much true. So I like the partnerships.
Yes.
So being able to lean on their relationships. So once you for the chamber, she has a lot of good relationships that a lot of businesses, once they become members, have an opportunity to kind of be introduced to those places, those people, places, and things that are actually going to help support their businesses. And under normal circumstances, if you were just pounding the pavement one by one, it would take you longer time to get through it. But with the chamber's help, it gives you an
Exactly.
opportunity to be able to utilize that, get rid of at least 5 steps.
Yes. Yes. It could be something like there could be a number of somebody that could be a potential customer that you couldn't ordinarily get in touch with, and they're sitting there at the table or at a table and are open and receptive to talking with you under those circumstances. But it might not happen without being a part of some activity that the chamber is doing.
Right. I agree.
And when we talk about the book, my book cites so many different organizations, Black Chamber of Commerce, and in particular, the granddaddy of it all is Booker T. Washington. When he started the National Business League in 1900, and all business people across the country that came together to help form that organization to support one another was phenomenal. This is 1900. He's the granddaddy of it all.
I get it. Yes, I get it. I mean, they taught us how to. I think that history teaches us how to form, how to convene and get it done, and do it under the understanding
Yes.
that they're underestimated so often that's the reason why we can move the needle a little faster or a little easier to kind of make our way through it.
Sure. Sure.
Because
One of the sayings that I say is history, and like what the book does, it lets you know what the standard that has already been set.
right. Yes. And then it allows
Yeah.
you it helps you to learn the rules, though. It helps you to learn. So for me, I learned that you have to understand the rules in which the game is played and then use those rules to your benefit in order to make sure that you can make it, or you're able to.
Yes.
There's no reason. So when you fill out an application, you fill it out in a way in which there's you don't exclude yourself from the list early on. You have to. So
Yes.
just
Yes.
like they have to work to exclude us, we have to work not to be excluded. You know. So I really think that that's
Yes.
important to know, and
Yes.
as far as that's concerned in the book, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, you didn't realize. So I'm telling you, I was all through this book because I was like, oh man, we got this. I think the one thing
I
that struck me the most is the fact, and when we
oh
talk
yeah.
about resiliency, you figure out that
Yes.
they were displacing black businesses over and over and over again. They were moving the target so often. Every time you turn around, they were moving the target. But somehow or another we were still able to come get together and do some great things. But the only reason why you ever want to
Yes.
destroy people or what they're doing is because you don't like it because of jealousy. So your book taught me competition is
Yes.
not necessarily favorable
It's
for
just
collaborators.
pure heart jealousy, racism, envy. Yes. I mean, also was unbelievable in terms of the devastation, and the guy wasn't he wasn't raping the girl in the elevator. The lady, the guy's great niece introduced me at my film showing in Tulsa, and ended up saying that they were dating and eventually got married. A little known. So this guy sees them in there, they're kissing. He calls rape, and they end up killing over hundreds and hundreds of black people, so many lives and devastation over an accusation that wasn't even true.
Absolutely, 100. And that's why I keep saying
Yeah,
he who controls the narrative controls the story. So at the end of the day, if they are controlling the narrative of it,
yeah,
then they get to write the story how they see fit. So rumors have killed
that's right.
thousands upon thousands of people. And the only thing people can say at the end of it, once it all washes out, is, oops,
Right.
it's, oh, I thought, or this is what I was told, instead of doing a little bit more investigation to find out whether or not how credible the rumor was. But the fact that even after all of that,
Right.
people were able to see a clear vision and focus on the goal, which is greater than their bad behavior. But
Sure.
yeah,
Sure. I mean, that's why it's so important that you do what you do as a journalist with your podcast. Is you put out perspective that you feel and understand that is another side of it that other people might not ordinarily hear, that like-minded people can relate to. So I commend you for doing this. I mean, don't quit, not at all.
we
Keep
got to
pushing,
keep going.
keep pushing the envelope.
Yeah, because I did
Yeah,
part of a radio show this morning was
you
talking
gonna get
about,
some naysayers.
they always exist. I call them cheerleaders, because you can have cheerleaders on both sides. You can have cheerleaders
Yes,
for the good and cheerleaders for the
yeah,
bad.
you'll have those.
You know, so I just call them cheerleaders. But it's just,
Yeah,
what voice am I willing to
yeah,
hear in my ear to move forward?
exactly. Yeah, I'm telling you, keep going, please. I'm so grateful you have me on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact you came hang out with me. One of the things
Yeah,
we talked about today was Aunt Jemima, and the fact that there is a her name. Oh my gosh, her name being Hoskins, because she Michelle
yeah,
Hoskins, because her syrup. I went and looked for it yesterday, and I was like, okay, so if this is what we're going to talk about, let me go look and let me go buy it. I Nobody had it. Kroger's, HEB, Amazon, all sold out, not available.
is that right? I didn't know that.
Yes. So it all got sold out. So I was like, okay, so I can't even try it. But
I
it
didn't
comes
know
on
that.
the heels
Yeah,
of,
Uncle Ben is next.
right? So Aunt Jemima comes on the heel, like her cells comes on the heels of Aunt Jemima and the controversy that exists with that. And so as I was going through the story, what I said this morning was, I think, was my biggest lesson. We are the culture. We are probably one of the most hated communities out there, right? But inside of that, they
Sure.
put our likeness on some pancake mix and then syrup and made it a brand, and have sold millions of dollars,
Yeah.
millions of units. What is that saying to us? That although we may not be well liked,
Yes.
we sell products. We sell products, and we sell good products. And although the gentleman
Yes.
who did it, they did it for a real, for whatever reason, however they came about it, they did it. But they changed, Aunt Jemima changed the way the trademark was done, making sure that our stuff has to be in order. But the way the trademarks were done, they are the longest running logo in advertising for marketing in history of the United States. So so even though at that time in 18, I think it was 1889, in 1889 they came out and did this pancake mix, right? And so in 1889 we were able to provide a way for them to see through. And then it got sold, and it went to, and now it's with Pepsi. So Pepsi owns Quaker Oats, or Quaker Company, right? but it's our likenesses. It's our ancestors' likenesses. It's our skin color, our culture that's selling this stuff. So I always want to encourage people that even though people are walking around saying that, oh, they don't like you, or oh, you are this, that, and the other, or we're not very well liked or well received. At the end of the day, we sell products. We sell them, and we should just keep moving.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. And I mean, it kind of surprised me a little bit how many salespeople, TV personalities pitch products. I mean, Shaq is what he's probably got maybe 8 or 9 different companies that he pitched
Yes.
for. The ladies pitching State Farm, the guy State Farm.
Yeah, there's a lot
It's
of them out there doing a lot of that work,
incredible.
right?
It's like kind of here.
But they know that there's power in
Yeah,
our it's there's power in our dollar. So I think that if it wasn't for the fact that we were able, if they would have put a
yeah,
different,
yeah.
if they put a different face on Aunt Jemima, would they have sold as much? Would it have been such a well-known brand? We don't know. But right now we know that between Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima, we have enough behind
All
us
right.
that we're able to sell a brand. We're able to sell their products. So we just have to put out. And so my that example is
Yeah, sure.
we can put our likenesses on it and be okay. We can create a very good product. If the product is good and it meets and it checks all of the boxes of what people are looking for, the opportunity is astronomical for what can happen
Sure.
as far as revenue is concerned.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's what I
I mean, between me and you, I don't buy Aunt Jemima
you know by
pancake mix because of the name Aunt Jemima. I just, I buy it because it's, you know what I mean?
I make my pancakes from scratch. But yeah, but I still
What's
think
the
that
difference with Uncle B and rice?
yeah, I don't buy Uncle Ben's either. But
Yeah, so they're gonna have an uphill climb when they change the name.
I don't know that they're changing any of the names. I think what they're doing is they're changing the likeness.
Yeah.
So even with the Gerber baby,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think they're just changing the iconic likeness because of why it was created. And I seen the earlier
Sure.
pictures
Sure.
on that, and the earlier pictures on
Yeah.
that they are not good. I would be angry. I would be very angry. So they kind of softened the look and stuff more.
Yeah.
It was definitely not
Sure.
not pleasant at all.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that was pretty good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
love the fact that history is teaching us a lot of things, and it actually helps me to understand that if they can go
Because they got to keep the high school I went to here in Detroit, but they're gonna just change who the school's named after,
really,
because he was a racist.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was listening to that. You were like because the person that they originally named
Yeah,
their
the
high
school I
school
was
after
named,
was a
I
racist.
attended.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah, he was a racist.
So they're going to change the
Guy named
name.
Lewis Cass.
Oh man. Well,
Now
they were
they're gonna
fine.
keep the name. They're gonna name it after somebody else. Take his name. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset about that as well because they feel as though you're losing history.
Yeah.
And I believe I'm of a belief that it's not your losing
Yes.
history, but when you can point it out and it's coming from a place of hate, then it needs to be removed. If what you're pointing out does not come from a place of hate, but it comes from
Sure.
history, then I think that you can keep it. But when you have too many people that are
Sure.
driving the message home through hate, then yes, I can't be a consistent reminder to everyone around that we should shudder with fear and things like that. So that's why, to a certain degree, I
Yeah. I mean that only makes sense.
yeah. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about it that way, but I see it that
Yeah.
way.
But it
Yeah. So that's
yeah,
pretty good.
I can, it came as a result of you know the George Floyd and all this, which was devastating. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, that's some of the offshot of that, and so many other things have come to light.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, we're almost done. So now you're going to go ahead and tell everybody where to find you. I'll let them know that they can buy the book at Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So tcbcc.org and go into events, and you'll find the book, and you can purchase that book. And
go ahead and buy the book from the chamber.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Buy the book from the chamber. We got a few left, and it also is coupled with this shirt. So you can actually buy the shirt as well, and it's a limited edition.
Oh.
Buy your shirt yet?
Yes.
You got to go and get it from the chamber.
Very nice.
So they're coupled together, so you can buy them individually or you can buy them together. But I think it's really good. So tell everybody how they can find you and how they can find you, or if they have any questions or want to do a project with you.
Okay. Well, easily enough, you can businessintheblack.net, businessintheblack.net. You can follow me on Twitter at a strong. I'm on Instagram at a strong one. My Facebook, my website, Amazon. My new product will be out next week at Inspirations by Strong. Strong is my brand word, Strong. But you can find my wood plaques on inspirationsbystrong.com. But follow me on Instagram at a strong dream.
A strong dream.
And again, I thank you so very much for having me on this show. This is phenomenal.
I appreciate that. Thank you for coming. So you're
coming to Houston when the virus is over.
Is that right?
Yes. A strong dream.
Cool. I'm glad
that it's on Instagram
today. I'm glad that we were able to do this. I appreciate your patience as we work out the kinks. But we're going to be much better. We're always better as we want to.
Yes, thank you, and your viewers for watching me.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and thank our sponsor.
Stay strong, people.
Stay strong, people. So we'd like to thank Southwest Airlines as a proud air travel sponsor of Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce. We'd also like to thank Primacor Business Solutions and Mr. Anthony Brogdon, because he was able to come and hang out with us for about the hour. So thank you very much, sir. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce Let's Talk Business podcast. We're here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. So make sure that you tune in to gmtradio.com so that you can come and join our conversation. Everybody have a great and glorious